Hello, Internet Land. I'm Big D, and welcome to Taco Tuesday. As winter creeps in closer, we have less time outdoors and more time to get projects up and going. Good evening, Commodore. Good to see you, Mike. Good to see you. I know we got started a couple minutes late tonight, just kind of arranging a few things here and there. So let's just kick it off with what's on the bench. I guess we'll start off with my Age of Sigmar. Master Hawkins, good to hear from you, sir. Age of Sigmar. I am working on a band of Ogre Moth tribes. So I finished up the 2 lead belchers that come in the Feast of Bones box. I just got to do bases for them, and I'm going to be doing a tutorial on the bases because I want to do snowy tundra bases for my army. Hello, Phoenix. I'm also, while I'm painting these guys, I'm also working on the rest of my Ogres. Standard bearer there, the rest of the units here. They're in various stages. Working on the Tyrant. Very ornate figure. I really like the Tyrant. Really good looking figure. Lot going on with him. So enjoying what I'm doing here with these guys. I'm also, as people may have noticed, I've been working on and playing a lot of Underworlds. Well, that's the thing. I mean, this is what I do every day, unfortunately. Blame it on COVID. Yeah, I mean, the Tyrant, honestly, the Tyrant is just such a really great figure. I'm trying to take my time with him. I really want to make him stand out. Just a really excellent figure. Just a really, really excellent figure. But I've been playing a lot of Underworlds, building and painting a lot of Underworlds, and I got a bunch of armies put together and I picked up this past week. I picked up the Primal Lair, and I have done the Primal Lair pieces, which are pretty cool. They're, for Age of Sigmar, I can totally just use them as just scatter terrain, just to put on the board. But for, as well as in Beastgrave, they take up token. They're basically tokens that take up squares that are impassable or cause damage. I'm really pleased with how some of this came out. Really, really super pleased. These are great little tokens. I want to get the Arcane set to go with Nightbane, but since Lady Dragon wanted to paint these up, and I didn't remember she wanted to paint them up because I bought them and painted up right away. So I'll probably, what I'm doing is I'll get the Nightgrave set, and I will allow her to paint them up. I really like how my green, glossy, layered bubbling came out in this one, especially with everything else being as matte as it is. I love using different textures and different finishes to really highlight a piece out. So you can see it as I move it by. The piece is matte, but the bubbling is nice and glossy and look nice and wet. Really pleased on how these came out. These also totally could be used in Age of Sigmar for objective tokens. So at least those 5 could. This one, not so much. It's actually my favorite of the pieces, though. It's just a nice looking piece. Pale Orc, good to see you, sir. So yeah, really excited about getting the rest of these ogres painted up. I painted up a few war bands. I've got my Hedonites, as you can see, them pile of white back there, built, primed, and I've started painting the Daemonettes in the color scheme I'm doing for them. They are going to be inspired by Hellraiser. So blacks and pale skin and a little bit here and there, but mainly blacks and pale skin and very chrome colors, very shiny silvery colors for metal. So when we get closer to that one, yeah, Cenobites are, as I've said before, Hellraiser was like my jam as a younger man. So, and I've always wanted to do a Slaanesh army based on the Cenobites, because the line from Ultimate Pleasure, Ultimate Pain, it always stuck to me as the Slaanesh thing. So, so it's coming together. I recently, oh gosh, I took it away. I got to get this for you guys. You got to see this. So a bunch of creators something a serial killer would say. I'm not saying I'm a serial killer. I'm saying there's a reason I don't own a rototiller. There's a number of creators a number of medium and smaller YouTube creators that have this kind of coalition of miniature painting and gaming stuff, and we're trying to help each other out. And it's not the IDIC beer; it's a different group. We're more of a, instead of trying to promote by giving likes and whatnot, it's more of a trying to help each other collaborate to crossover channels in that way and help with creating content and whatnot. And there's a holiday mini swap where we paint a miniature up most of the way and then send it on to the person that we're swapping with to finish it up. So I received a Wolf Lord on Thunderwolf with axe and shield. That was really great. And the only thing I really needed to do was just add a little bit of shading onto the shoulders and some of the metal, and a little bit of dry brushing on the fur on the back of the cloak. And Mr. Meeks, how are you, sir? Hey, we've been trying to connect up via Discord for a bit, man. We keep mentioning each other. Oh, we got to talk at some point. But yeah, so this is from, let me get the exact name of the person that they go by. I want to make sure I don't misspeak or mispronounce the name. It's Charlotte the Tiefling. Who runs a D&D focused channel, but does a lot of miniature painting and did just an absolutely beautiful job on this Wolf Lord that they printed and painted up for me. And like I said, the only thing I needed to do was the yellows were a little bright, so I had to just throw a little bit of Agrax over the yellow to darken them down and highlight them a little bit, and then a little bit of Reekland over the rim on the shield and on the backpack and on the shoulder plaids. But other than, and I did a little tiny bit of dry brushing on the back of this thing, but it was 99% done. It was like 15 minutes of work, and this thing was done. This is a beautiful, beautiful figure. And actually, in the new list that I'm building, now that I have the Space Wolf Codex, this figure will actually be used as a proxy for Harold Deathwolf, floored on a wolf with a shield and an axe. So I'm going to be using that for Harold, and actually going to be in my next list. I've got a really, really cool list. Had to put it into 2 detachments to fit 2 captains in, because I wanted 2 captains in there, 2 wolf lords. So I've got Harold and good boy Ragnar, Black Man himself. And then I've got Njal Stormcaller. I mean, it's a fun list. 3 named characters, plus a unnamed Wolfguard battle leader as the actual warlord of the army. So I could get in the specific abilities I wanted in there in addition. So a lot of fun there. Trying not to focus too much on No Bolter November, with it being No Bolter November, but bad timing on the Space Wolves to come out. I've been messing with lists. So a good friend of mine that plays demons wants to see what I can do with it, because after playing my Custodes against him, my Custodes did a lot better than he thought they would. And he wants to tune his list. So he wants me to bring some Space Wolves, since I apparently see some things as a real positive in the list, in the book, that he's not understanding or not seeing. So working on a list that I've been tuning for a couple days now. I definitely want to put it on the table. I'll need to get myself an Impulsor. That is the one piece of that army I do not have. But having an Impulsor to deliver Ragnar and 3 Blade Guard veterans into somebody's back line is quite the joyous thing to do. So that's what's on the bench. That's what I've been working on. The other part of that trade, or I am sending, it's not a trade, it's a Secret Santa. So everybody's got somebody else's name in this group. I actually have very good pictures of this. I'm actually using the box that Charlotte sent to me. I'm using it to ship out. I did a miniature for another channel that I'm shipping out to him. Once he notes that he's received it, then I'll do an unveiling for you guys on the work I did on it. I'm beginning to try and go through and tally up and figure out what I've all painted this year, as we're coming to near the end of November. So I've got about a month left, and I want to see how much more I can get done. I'm super motivated right now for painting, so I want to get the rest of these Ogres done and then dive into the Slaaneshi army. But as soon as No Bolter November is done, I want to dive back into my wolves at the same time, because there's a number of wolves I want to get done for this list I'm put together, especially the Blade Guard. I want to finally finish Ragnar. He's been like at 80% done for months. I just haven't been able to finish him up. I finally want to finish up Ragnar. And I want to paint Njal, because I have now an original metal Njal that I want to paint up, because he'll be awesome. Such a good figure. Gosh, I was shocked at how good Njal really is. I'm like, why would I ever take any other rune priest? I mean, he's so good. I mean, he's a little expensive, but gosh, he gets work done. So that being said, so So that's the bench. Couple of videos I'm working on right now. I'm working on a tutorial on how to do snowy tundra bases, not like my ice devastation bases like I do for my space world, but more like mud and snow and slop and muck trudging from the north that I'm doing for these guys, because that's the kind of bases these guys are going to. I'm also working on some very specific Slaneshi corruption bases, which I've been messing with some ideas for. And I finally think I've got them controlled. So I know what I want to do there. Again, I just got to be able to sit down and get stuff finished building, do a couple test bases, see how those look, and then do the actual finished portion of the video and get those tutorials up. So I'm hoping I'm actually going to have a rapid fire couple of tutorials, one out this weekend, one out next weekend. Should be pretty good. If you're not playing Underworlds, I really suggest it, especially if you've got somebody in your life that enjoys board games or enjoys, really it's a board game and enjoys board games and strategy type games, but is not really into the whole 40K or Age of Sigmar thing. It's 5 or 6 figures that they don't have to paint. You can just push them together. They're colored. They're fine if they don't want to paint them. The game is fast paced. I played 2 games. I played 2 games, and it was around an hour to play the 2 games altogether. And the first one was me learning how to play the game. So it's a very easy to learn game. It's one of those easy to learn, and then finding an army that you really like and learning how its card play, how to master its card play, and how to optimize for that. That's where the real difficult part is. But it's a fun game. It's a lot of fun to play. Definitely worth the investment. It's a cheap game. You can buy the base box for $65, and it's got 2 armies in it, and then the additional army bands are like $30 to $35 a piece. Less than that if you get them on Amazon. And there's like 20 teams, 25 teams, something like that. And if you get multiple box sets, like there's 2 teams in Beastgrave, there's 2 teams in Night Vault, I think it's called. And there's a new set that's going to be coming out real soon. The Night Vault set has Undead and has Night Hunt and the Sigmarines. The Beastgrave has Beastmen and Fey Wood things. They're like a centaur and a Fey cat, and I guess they're part of Sylvaneth, but they're a very weird little band. I like them. I'm actually not really fond of the Beastmen. Came with 2 Beastmen decks. Well, luckily, Games Workshop's usually really good about that. So, you should just be like, hey, I just need this deck. And usually they can get it out to you in a few days. They're usually really, really good about that. So you guys got the Beastgrave deck. Yeah, and like I said, there's a new set coming out that's going to have Daughters of Cain, although it's a weird set of them. They're the shadow ones that are out of the new Marathi box. And they're going to be alternating against Slaanesh, which I'm looking forward to that box. I'll be getting that too, with Shannon really liking very cool. If you guys need a quick primer on how to play, it's a lot of fun. I can show you how. And if you guys got it down, maybe we get you guys over for a day, set up the card table in the living room and play a couple games, because they go through really quick. We could just live stream it, just sit there and chat and play games of it. It goes really, really quick. It is a fast and fun, easy game to play. I was shocked at how fast and you play You have 4 turns, and it's 3 rounds, and it's not very long at all. It's really not. Like a half hour. Once you understand the rules, 20 minutes to a half hour, boom, you're done. So well worth it. I've played a few different armies now. I've actually really like. There's an Ogre Maw Tribes team that I like. That's an Ogre with his pet saber cat, and then 3 Noblars, which are like really angry, like feral. Think of them like feral goblins, and I really like that the way that team plays. It's a lot of fun. Really fun team to play. And that's the other thing. These are absolutely not necessary to play the game. These are just basically instead of having blank spaces on the board, you just kind of put these in the middle and they fit into where the blank spaces are. Just to give it some more depth and terrain. It's useless plastic to look cool. But rule of cool, I mean, that's the first rule of Warhammer. Rule of cool always wins. So, all right. So I think that's everything on the bench right now that I could possibly cover. Yeah. All right, so what's coming up? Well, I mean, Blood Bowl is 3rd edition, or whatever they're calling it, 2nd season. It's actually like 5th edition Blood Bowl. I want to say it's like the 5th edition of Blood Bowl is coming out. But it looks really cool. I like the fact that with the last edition and this edition, they've gone back to the original rules in a lot of ways. They have changed things up, so it's not just as it was. It's not as plain as it was in 1st edition, but a lot of the rules have reverted to that. I remember the 2nd edition of the game where they added all these extra races and all these specialty positions for different races that were hard to tell apart. That was actually what turned me off of Blood Bowl. I was like, I'll just stick to 1st edition. And then none of my guys wanted to play anymore, so it died. But I like the look of 4th edition. I actually went and bought the video game version of the version that came out, I guess, 3-4 years ago. And I've played both Blood Bowl 1 and Blood Bowl 2, and it's just like the old games I remember. A lot of fun to play. I dig it a lot. And this new edition coming out, one of our friends is going to be running a league. We have an 8-player league we're going to play. The only rule was that there was no doubling up on races. So everybody had to pick one race, and it had to be different. So I'm going to be playing, looks like orcs. I got to get the orc team. But I'll be making a pitch once I get the full measurements of the pitching back. I'm gonna actually do a pitch so that we'll have a pitch with dugouts, so that we can play more than one thing. Eventually, I'd like to buy the box, the full game box set. I don't know if I will. I'd like to. The price went up. The last edition was like $105 or $110. The new edition is $140. For a game that's basically a single book and 2 12-figure armies and a piece of cardboard. I mean, there's a bunch of other little things with it. I don't know. Most of that stuff is all makeable. That was the thing I loved about Blood Bowl in the original. As long as you have a copy of the rules, everything else is pretty makeable. I mean, a friend of mine actually, when we were doing the original time while you're playing Blood Bowl, he wanted to play an undead army, and he just bought a box of skeletons and made a undead army using them. He bought like a mummy figure, and then I just had a bunch of skeletons, and clipped the spears off, and that was it. He had a skeleton army. It was undead army. It was great. I've seen somebody took a bunch of old elves. Again, this was first edition, but it's the same thing. They took a bunch of elves and they clipped off the weapons and did a little bit of kit bashing, and they made an elven team that way. I've thought about it, actually. I mean, I've thought about, if I don't lay my hands on an orcish team quickly enough, I may just go through that box of fantasy orcs. That I got from my buddy in Waukesha. And there's a bunch of plastic fantasy orcs in there. Build a orc team from them. It's just a matter of putting numbers on them. I've got a couple of the balls. I've got more than enough green stuff to make football-looking helmets and clip-off weapons and whatnot to make it look like an orc team. I mean, they're just figures. So, there's a lot of options there. So it's one of the things I'm thinking about. You just got to put them on 32 millimeter bases. So I may end up doing that. Fun fact, that's where astrogranite comes from. If you've ever seen the technical paint, astrogranite debris and astrogranite, I forget what the other one's called. Astrogranite and astroturf. It was a joke that the original pitches were made of astrogranite. Basically, you're playing on stone, but it's artificial stone. I don't know what that means. Old Warhammer. The one thing I really like about Blood Bowl is that it goes back to Warhammer's roots. One of the things we've lost with the addition of 30K and all this lore is how much of Warhammer started off very tongue-in-cheek. There was a lot of very dry British humor, a lot of black humor involved in the game. A lot of really dark black humor. I mean, the Marines were a parody. The whole over-the-top cartoonish levels of fascism. It was meant to be cartoony. I mean, if you look at like the Inquisition, they're basically the Nazi Catholic Church, and that's on purpose. Again, there was a lot of very tongue-in-cheek humor. The orcs being ridiculous were part of that, and the orcs were just as ridiculous in fantasy as well. And that was true about their entire fantasy line. And Blood Bowl was over the top comedy. It was meant to be just puns upon puns upon puns. The whole idea of Blood Bowl was supposed to be this ceremony to the great god Nuffle. And his holy priests and law keepers would put on these zebra-striped robes, to keep the rules. And it was this really ridiculous, satirical, funny game that was fun to play. And it's not the only one they've done like that. There's another game they did around the same time as the first Blood Bowl came out that has disappeared in the ether, and it's a real shame. They had a game called Dark Future, and it was basically Gaslands. I mean, there's really no way around it. It came with a couple of cars, but they were Matchbox-sized cars. And the whole idea was that you were playing Mad Max shoot-'em-up type games using Matchbox cars with guns glued on them. And there were rules and all that. And that was a hilarious and fun game because it was so ridiculously over the top. The original Necromunda, I've been looking over the rule books. There's a lot of really tongue-in-cheek satire. And you see it now and again, especially with whoever's doing the Imperial Guardsman's primer and whatnot, where they talk about protein paste and protein powder. Mr. Tesh, good to see you, sir. Good to see you indeed. So there's a bit of that satire in there, but they've taken the grimdark and tried to make it so serious. Why make it so serious? Why so serious? But it's where it's gone. And, I left for a number of years and came back to that going, okay. So it is what it is. Don't get me wrong. I still love it. It's just funny because Blood Bowl is one of these vestiges of the original feel of Warhammer, where it was just, their original books. I have their original books over here. And some of the entries in the books are just, where they're talking about different races, are just ridiculous. So funny. And a lot of it is fourth wall breaking, a lot of fourth wall breaking humor. Instead of Cable Vision, it's Cabal Vision. If you played the video game, you get a good idea for it, because they talk about a lot of the humor in there, a lot of the very tongue-in-cheek satirical humor. So I'm really excited for it. I'm looking forward to playing some Blood Bowl against actual people instead of just a computer. It's really hard to schedule a game online, just because it's only so popular here in the States, but it's really popular over in England. So, and you have to have a whole lot of add-on packs and a whole lot of DLC to get all the different races and whatnot. So it was kind of like, I like just playing against the computer and just to remember how the rules go. And I've been using that to primer myself up on the rules. So that'll be fun. Let's see, what else have they done? The Marathi book is out. I haven't had a chance to read it yet. But there's a little bit of something for a lot of Age of Sigmar groups in there. Christmas boxes have been announced. Tau, Imperial Guard, Space Marines, Tyranids. I'm trying to remember who the other two were. The Space Marine one looked pretty good. The Imperial Guard one, I'd almost rather just get the Acadian Command box, which is probably going to be around the same price. But instead of getting a Hydra, I'll get a Layman Russ instead. But basically, it's just the same box flipped. And that's if I get a Battle Force box. I didn't get one last year. I really wanted a Space Wolf one, but I never got around to getting it. I'm trying to remember who the other two were. Oh, there's a Necron one that, according to a couple of my dedicated Necron players, looks really, really good. Greg could tell us. He took a look at the box. He could tell us if that was a good-looking box. So, Necron's Imperial Guard, Space Marines, Tyranids. I forget who the other one is. They all look pretty good. They're great for starter armies. If nothing else, Tau, they're good for starter armies. I still want that Tau one. I kind of want that Necron one. Either one of those would be really nice to go with what I've got started. Pound Chaos Marines, that's the other one, Chaos Marines. The Chaos one actually really personally looked good to me because it's all units I need for the Chaos army I'm building. But I want to build Necrons next year. That's like my army for 2021 is going to be Necrons. So I definitely would like to get the Necron Battle Force box. They've also got them for Age of Sigmar. I honestly didn't look too closely at them. They looked pretty good, though. The Ogre one looked really good to me. It actually had a lot of units that I'm looking for. To be honest, it looked like just a duplication of what was in the Feast of Bones box, which is all stuff I could use more of, with the addition of the Ogre small Gargant. It's not a full-blown Gargant. It's like a Demon Prince-sized giant, so probably a good siege unit, or what do they call it? Behemoth, a good Behemoth unit, but not, not like, oh my god, but still pretty good. There's a Tzeentch one. There's a Tzeentch one that if I saw it had a Lord of Change in it, which I was like, wow, that is a big unit to include in a box like that. But then I looked at the other units with it, and they're a lot of really small ones, so I can see where that would go really well. I didn't notice if there was Stormcast or not. I honestly didn't look that close at it because I don't need any more Stormcast, and I saw the Ogre one, and I'm like, I could use that one. I would be happy to get that one. Hey, Nate, how you doing? I'm quite well. Like I said, getting a lot of stuff done. Getting a lot of stuff done. Just kind of gearing up. Got Thanksgiving next week. I have a big D&D game that weekend. The wife's going to be working a lot of hours. So, I don't know. I just trying to get as much painting and as much filming in as I can over the next few days to kind of fill out some content. December's always slow for content because there's so much family stuff going on. No, he hasn't. That's I'm glad to see he's on the job. That's why I got the Commodore to begin with. He's my guy. So yeah, I mean, I got a lot of projects on the horizon, and now, this is the time of year where you start trying to finish the last of the things up you want to get done for the year and start planning out next year. I'm getting really close to 600 subs, and at the same time, I'm getting really close to followers on Instagram. When can we get a hobby sit down again? I was thinking, appreciate that, Nate. I was thinking, I was actually thinking about this weekend. I don't know. I've got a regular gaming group that we kind of we get together in the morning and play some games. But I really want to get some stuff painted. So, and I don't know because last time we used we sat down with Frost and Fists. As we know, Mythos has some personal stuff going on in his life right now that's kind of keeping him away from the hobby. And love and prayers to Wolf Brother Mythos. Everybody, put him in your thoughts and prayers. He's got some stuff going on. Had a family member pass on for a moment there. And hang on, I got to mute for just a moment. Just a moment. sorry. Poor Paulo is needs to go outside, and I'm here alone today. As you notice, Lady D is not with me. This is her only day off she's had in like a week, and the only one she's going to have for like a week. So she's just kind of resting up. And sometimes the teenager needs prodding to do things right away. The joy of live streams. You never know what's going to happen. And as Corny Collins says, live television, there's nothing quite like it. Well, I'm sorry, so am I. Drama of teenagers. Drama! Yeah, and that's the thing. I kind of, it's funny. I started the live stream. Sassy Plague Child. I started the live stream. It's now been a little bit over a year now since I started doing the live streams. I started the live streams in July of last year. And I've only missed one Tuesday since July, and I ended up making up for it the following day. I did it on Wednesday because I was just so out of it and so sick on Tuesday. I had one Wednesday I had to do it on, and I had, I think last week and one other time earlier in the year I had to cut it short because I wasn't feeling well. But the kind of the chaos, and I love the conversation. I mean, that's a really big thing, to be honest. I love the conversation. I love having, a bunch of people here. Yeah, I mean, we all do. That actually might not be a bad idea. If we can't do it in Mythos's his video channel, I'm sure we could throw up a Discord chat room, like a live stream chat room, and just get everybody who wants to get on a hobby so we can chat while we hobby. If anybody's interested in that, let me know. Okay, we could do that too. I mean, we could probably do that too. I think we can get up to 12 people in there, so that might be a good. I think that might be a good thing to do Friday night. After their stream, though, remember they're going to have a stream there Friday night. So yeah, I gotta say though, I played my first real game of Age of Sigmar. I played my first game of Age of Sigmar last week. Now, that should say something. I've got 2,600 points of Stormcast, and built, painted, and done. I'm starting on an Ogre army. I've got a Slanesh army that I've got built. I just got to paint. But I didn't play Age of Sigmar until this past weekend. I like it. But it's very, very, very different than 40K. It is not the same animal. It's really not the same animal. Movement and unit placement and unit shape and figure placement it's incredibly different. It's incredibly different than 40K. I was kind of struck by that. Like in 40K, one of the big things is that if I get into base to base with you, the 40K has mostly shooting with some melee. Age of Sigmar is lots of melee with a little bit of shooting. And it really is. And I think about in 40K and it comes about with the orcs, which is why they had to very specifically enforce that orcs are on 32 millimeter bases in ITC because of the way melee base to base rules go. Like in 40K, if your unit of Marines are there and I run like my orcs up to them, so the orcs that are base to base with them, they're going to all be in combat. The orcs that are in base to base with the units that are in base to base, or units that are within an inch. So it's like, okay, these units, let's say I've got 4 rows of orcs against a group of Marines. The front row of orcs that are in base to base with the Marines, they're getting in combat. The second row of orcs that are within an inch of these guys that they're in melee with, they're within an inch, so they're in base to base, so they get to fight. The third row, they're in base to base with figures that are in melee they're in melee with that first row, so they can be so they're getting to fight too. The fourth row wouldn't. So I mean that's the way if you stack them up in perfect squares, basically the first 3 rows get to fight, the fourth row wouldn't, because it's finally getting too far apart because 32 millimeter bases. And I know that sounds kind of complicated, but that's the only way you can figure out how many units can figure. And that's why they're staggering, so you can kind of work that in there and get more units into a combat. If I've got a 3-man unit, we had a situation this weekend where a unit of cavalry charged into one of my units. And I had a guy that was, when they fought back, they killed one of the horses. And there was some shenanigans where the way he was picking his wounded figures. Oh, because you can shoot in the combat. That was what happened. Okay, he had a group of guys charging to me, then I could charge into him. Now I could still shoot into him with another unit the next round. Well, I shot first into the unit, which I'll never do again. I shot first into the unit, and it let him pick units off of one side. And now when my melee guys that were in base to base with them, he removed a couple guys because they've got melee weapons, and the melee weapons only have a 1-inch range. These guys now suddenly, because I already did the pile in, they're suddenly not able to fight. Because it doesn't matter if they're base to base with a figure that's within fighting range. Every figure is measured on its own to whether or not it can fight. It was very confusing for me. And that's because I've gotten used to 40K melee combat. And I'm probably, the way I'm describing this sounds chaotic. Well, that's the thing. Age of Sigmar, because it is so melee heavy, and the fact that you can shoot in the melee, was really confusing to me. There was just, and then certain armies, I really think I have a hard time seeing that things are so. Yeah, I guess, Kami, but I mean, I was looking at it, and like I said, I was having problems with it. I was having problems with it, and I figured it out. I have other issues with it as well. I don't get me wrong. I have other issues with it as well. I think there are certain armies that are just incredibly imbalanced against the game. I mean, it just I heard a lot of people complaining about how strong and how tough and how powerful the Sigmarines are, and the only thing I seem to have going for them is the fact that each of my guys had 2 wounds, which I understand is a big deal, but considering it's not based on your toughness, it's based on your armor save purely and whether or not the weapon wounds is on its own. I mean, it was, and he had I was playing a guy that was playing a bunch of the new elves, which have a bunch of things that they can do to allow them to dish out tons of mortal wounds, which you don't get to save from. And suddenly my 5-man units of guys were dead, like instantaneously. It was, I mean, I was wiped off the table. I was wiped off the table from, and basically I didn't get to roll much anything. It's like, I'm fighting you. I did this many mortal wounds. You just take those figures off the table. Well, crap. Okay, so my unit of 5 is now a unit of 2. Okay. And it was like, wow, and you don't have to pay anything for that. That's just a thing. And I'm kind of going through my Stormcast book to see how I get to do these mortal wounds, and it was like, wow. I mean, that just seems really powerful. So I don't know. I'm still very new to the Age of Sigmar rules. So I'm sure there's some balancing points in there, but it just seemed like, for as much as I heard about how tough and how devastating the Sigmarines are, they may not do damage, but man, they can just sit there and just take damage all day long. I had a bunch of elves with spears kill me just like that. Oh, look, I'm all dead. Jeez, they're just wiped off the table. Yeah, I don't know. So I also think it suffers from the same problem that 40K does. Playing small numbers of units, a 25 power level game, you really don't, facing a 500-point game, you really don't get a good grasp of what's really going on the table, especially when you're not playing to objectives. You're just playing, okay, we're just trying to wipe each other off the board. Well, if I'm just trying to wipe me off, if you're just trying to wipe me off the board, I have to engage you to wipe you off the board. If you're playing an army that just dishes tons of mortal wounds and my guys are just like do. Yeah, well, they need an FAQ because his cavalry ran into like some of my most durable, supposedly durable troops, and they were off the table before I rolled dice for them. So the other truth could be is that could be just a matter of me not understanding the army well enough and how to build. I don't want to say I didn't like it. It's not a matter that I didn't like it, but it just seemed, I don't mind a simple game, but I think taking some of the things out of people's hands oversimplified certain parts of the game. And I think by oversimplifying certain parts of the game, it plays faster, but Boom, done. You're taken off the table. You've never rolled a die. So, I need to go back over my army list and kind of look at it because I've got a lot of stuff to go with the Stormcast. So I need to figure them out. And I got to figure what they're best at doing. I want to do the Ogres. I don't think the Ogres are that much different. Just looking at the number count, they seem to be really big, tough units with lots of wounds. So their whole thing is staying power too. Well, if people are just rolling... Well, dude, it wasn't even strategy. He just ran up and went, here, have a handful of mortal wounds. Have them hunch more mortal wounds. There was no strategy. There was just... Because it was basically just a teaching game. I mean, that's the thing to understand. It wasn't like this was some great strategy type game. It was, okay, we're going to play a basic game. Here's a simple table. Your job is to kill all my guys. My job is to kill all your guys. We're just going to kill everybody off. And I think the perfect example is that my leader gets 8 attacks. And if I roll 6s on the wound, they do 2 damage for each attack. So, that's cool. His leader has 5 attacks, but every single one of them is like a D3. The two of the attacks are D6s, and the other 3 are D3s. It was just like he went, have 14 wounds. I'm like, hang on. Sassy plague child. And like I said, I don't think it's a fault of the Sigmarines. I think it's a matter of me being new. And yeah, I think that army not being FAQ'd and not playing an actual mission, where you have objectives and whatnot. I think it was a culmination of things. But just getting knocked off the table without rolling any dice, it just seemed like this is fun. So I don't know. But I like the Ogres. I like the Ogres. I like the way they look. I think it won't matter either way. I'll enjoy playing them. It makes me very curious about some of the other armies. And it makes me curious about some stratagems because, about certain strategies. I shouldn't say stratagems because there are no stratagems in this game. I'm not even really sure what you use command points for other than activating your commander's command ability and a reroll. I mean, if that's the only things you use CP for, that seems kind of weak to me. I mean, there's got to be some other use for CP. But again, that's not really getting the full flavor of what Age of Sigmar does. It's a lot more tactical movement and melee and maneuvering units. It's a lot more tactical. There's a lot more strategy, and then there's a lot more depth of thought. So, I really need to reread the basic rules on that again to kind of get a better grip on that. But again, I'm not going to go nuts on this game. I want to kind of play it like super casually. Like, I want to build armies that look cool. I don't really want to worry about it. Is this an optimal unit? Like, I want to get the start collecting box for the that has the giant mammoth and the 4 dudes on giant saber cats. I think that's a cool looking box. Is it super optimal? I have no idea, but it looks cool. There's a unit in my Marines that I really love playing because they look cool that I got the idea from looking at them now that I've played them once. Those guys with the twin hammers and the really sparkly wings are not really a really good unit. They're kind of they're okay. They're fast. They're fast and they chuck hammers, but they're really not. Yay! They're kind of like, oh yeah. They're probably really good at flying up fast and grabbing an objective and sitting on it. But that's it. So I don't know. If I get another chance to play some this coming Saturday, and get another crack at it, maybe I'll give it another shot and see like a different list. I mean, we're supposed to play 1,000-point lists, so I'm going to try and mess around with that and see if I can come up with something a little better, maybe a little bit more magic, because I have a lot of sorcerers. See if that does something for me. I am a little disappointed. We had our Justice League challenge. Lady D, because of all her hours at work, got the figures she wanted to be able to paint up and never even got a chance to crack the box. Mythos had the Death in his family, so he wasn't able to paint his figure. A lot of other people wanted to paint people and never got around to it. It was just, unfortunately, me and the Commodore. Commodore's Superman Marine looked amazing. It was a really, really good-looking figure. I really liked my Captain Atom figure. Part of me kind of thinks doing a variation on that theme would even be a pretty cool. Doing a variation on that theme could actually even be a pretty cool looking Marine chapter. Although I don't see me doing that because I like my chapter coloration right now. But if anybody wants to go ahead and use that and do their own Marines in that super shiny silver with red boots and gloves, please feel free to do so. It's kind of cool. What else we got? Talked about the Christmas boxes. There is a reveal this weekend, and it sounds like it's going to be big. It sounds like it's going to be chaos based. Something and Decay is the name of it. I forget what the other one is. Devotion and Decay, something in Decay. So I'm guessing they're going to be showing off the new Death Guard figure that's coming out, the new Death Guard terrain that's coming out, heralding the new codex that's coming out for the Death Guard, which I am super stoked for. But also, there's going to be, they talked about there's going to be some Warcry stuff in there and some Age of Sigmar stuff. It's going to be a lot of chaos stuff based in there. So it'll be interesting to see. Like I said, I'm looking forward to seeing more the Death Guard stuff. Finally get their stuff right off the bat for 9th. I'm super excited for that. Only because that means my Plague Marines will finally get 2 wounds. Now we know that the Blood Angels and the Death Guard are getting their new codexes next month in December. And they've said that there are going to be 2 codexes coming out in January. One of them will be a Imperium and one will be Xenos. I've heard through the rumor mill that the Imperium one that's coming out next in January is going to be Dark Angels. Because the idea is to knock out all of the non-standard Marine chapters right off the bat. Because they're the only ones left. They just did, with them just doing Death Watch, that's it. That's the 4 of us. So that would be smart in my thinking. That would be a really smart thing to do. As far as Xenos, I've heard a couple rumors. I've heard Tyranid, which I think would be great because I think the Tyranid could use it. I've also heard Eldar. I think that's more of people musing back and forth. I think that's really more of people musing back and forth. I honestly think it's going to be Tyranid. I would like, in a perfect world, I'd like for it to be Orcs. I think the Orcs, because the Orcs have a figure that they showed off, and they also showed a Drukhari figure off. That's one of the reasons I hear it is could be Craft Worlds or Dark Eldar, more likely. I think the Xenos need the love. I think everybody needs the love. I think they need to get these codexes out. They need to fast track these things and get them out. Get everybody in their codexes right away. Just get the codexes out, and then let's worry about other shit down the line. I've had now a little bit over a week to go through my Space Wolf Codex. I've been looking at, as I said, I've been looking at making a couple lists. I'm seeing some really nice synergies. I may end up actually eventually take Blood Claws. I can actually see an actual viable use for Blood Claws now. I realize that Blood Claws charging a Blood Claw charging with a chainsword gets 4 attacks a unit. 4 attacks a figure. 5 attacks for the leader if he's got a chainsword. That's a lot of blades. And if you're using 10-man Blood Claws, we're talking 40 attacks. If you put, like a power fist on the leader, so you'd have 36 chainsword attacks, and then 4 power fist attacks. Power fist hitting on 3s, all the chainswords hitting on 2s. You take a Wolfguard leader and put him in there with a shield and a thunderhammer, and you're dishing a lot of retribution. So that's a lot of attacks. It's a brutal number of attacks. It also makes me look at Sky Claws because they do the exact same thing. And the ability to have a 12-inch move to charge in and just brutalize somebody like that. Yeah. A lot of different variations looking at fast attacks and getting melees on people. I've heard people say, well, that much melee, it seems kind of a trap. No, not really. The wolves have way too many. Blood Claws natively hit on 3s in melee. So on a charge, with a chainsword, they're hitting on 2s. Because that's what we wolves do. And if it's the 3rd turn or later, or we've been able to use one of our other shenanigans, we're in the Assault Doctrine. Because Assault Doctrine, we actually have ways to put units in Assault Doctrine, even when it's not the Assault Doctrine phase. That just gets ridiculous. Because on hits of 6 are an extra hit. Not even an extra, not an extra attack, it's an extra hit. So 6s count as 2 attacks, count as 2 hits. And then remembering that in Assault Doctrine, you get that additional 1 AP on your blades or on your melee weapons. You're suddenly in the realm of breaking everything in reach. So Yeah, there's some definite synergies and possibilities going on there. I'm getting an impulsor because I can see some stuff that Ragnar with a set of Blade Guard can do. But I eventually I don't have a lot left for my wolves I want to get, but I was looking at getting a drop pod that I can stick a group of 10 blood claws in and drop a drop pod with 10 blood claws in the backfield and run them all the way to the back corner and then run them up into the back end of an army and throw just a massive number of attacks. That's kind of like, ew, that's nasty. Just nastiness. Just also making me look at incursors. That was another figure I was looking at, the incursor. I've got them because the incursors and the infiltrators are the same unit basically. I think there's a helmet swap between them. But incursors basically have a -1 AP weapon on them. Doesn't give an extra attack, but it does give them a -1 AP. So the idea of a group of incursors, which you can place forward on a board, they don't have to start in the objective area, and effectively have chainswords. Yeah, anything I can do to give units an excuse to be up forward and getting melee is just sounds like a fun time. It's not about putting the most troops on a objective. It's about getting rid of anybody else that's not friendly to you on that objective. Musings and thoughts. I'm looking forward to, once I have a chance to put my wolves together, to maybe bring our good friend Commodore back here with his knights, or maybe even her fists, and have a little friendly back and forth between the fists and the wolves, and see if we can't come to an accord on who the big boys are on the block. Yeah, or him bring his demons. We'll see. We'll have to see what comes about. I definitely want to beat up on Commodore. That much I know. I want to beat up on Commodore, like a lot. Quick thought, now that Halloween is over, get to your local craft store if you want to do some cool stuff for yourself. Silicone molds. A lot of these from Christmas. A lot of these from Thanksgiving. Wow, Christmas, Thanksgiving, Halloween. These silicone molds that you can get for Halloween stuff. Definitely some nice gothic vibes there. Some definite gothic terrain here. I got a thing of skulls. And I got a thing of... dragon skulls, and since they're silicone, they're very resistant to a lot of things. I'm going to try it out. I've been talking about this for a bit. I'm actually going to fill these bad boys up with some sprue goo and press it down hard, piece of wood, and let's see what we get, and then see if we can get some actually nice plastic skulls out of this. Could be fun for terrain and or random building projects. So another good use for our sprue goo. I think we pretty much covered about anything. So I guess at this point, we got about 10 minutes left. If you guys got any quick questions or thoughts on anything we talked about, quick throw them up in the chat. Let's see what we can babble about. As we're starting to get ready for the new year, especially as a group of hobbyists are you starting to think about what your goals for next year are? I know I've been actually really thoroughly thinking about what my goals for next year are, and oddly enough, mine is to not paint as many figures next year. I actually want to really focus on building a lot more terrain next year. I want to build a lot of terrain. I want to build some table size pieces, and I want to get that orcish terrain that I've had half built for a while. I want to get that done and get that tutorial put together. I've got an idea for a AOS board of a series of fallen temples. Think Valley of the Kings from Egypt. I have an idea for a series of terrain to make for something like that. I also want to do some ice terrain so I can actually do some battles on Fenris itself. Maybe bring my knights against the Commodore's knights. Knights on knights fight. Kind of we're giant knights because here's to be honest, from the way the new rules work, knights kind of suck at the game right now. They're not very good at all because they really have a heck of a time controlling objectives, and they're really easy to score objectives on, especially secondaries. So they're not the greatest really right now, unfortunately. We're hoping maybe once they get a book, there might be some salvation for them in that book. But as of right now, knights are in a bad place as by themselves. It might be nice to throw into an army as a piece of heavy weapon support, but maybe with guard. But Marines don't need them. Marines have so many new tools and toys to play with. Although it might be something to look at. Might be looking at playing my guard and sticking a knight in with my guard just to give them some heavy firepower to take some shit out. It's actually not a bad idea. Might be a neat way to fight those demons. Just bring out a titan and just kind of go, you go away now. Well, with nothing popping up, I'm going to guess everybody's either asleep or they just don't have anything going on. So what we're going to do, we're going to quick give a shout out to my lovely patrons. I'm going to start off with my wonderful Battle Brother patrons, which would be Mini Warmut and Inquisitor Zane. We have my three or busy hobby, which is fair. We have my three battle leader tier Patreon members, which are the amazing Mythos Krishnada, the wonderful Kaiju Shorts, and the ever so great Heinrich Botha. And lastly, we have our three Warlord tier patrons. The amazing Smash Captain, Ultimate Smash Captain, James Meeks, who has won a figure for the last quarter of the year. I will be sending out to you. I've already got your address, buddy. I have an ancient Wolf Lord in Terminator armor in metal that I will be sending out to you, sir. And then I have my other two, the lovely, the wonderful, the ever so talented Paintress, Flight of the Phoenix. And lastly, coming out of high orbit, my buddy, my friend, my brother from another mother, the ever so protective, the Commodore. That being said, guys, I appreciate all the attention you guys give me. I know I haven't put out as many videos lately as I normally do. Just life has been kind of, just been kind of busy lately. So I'd appreciate it if all of you would hit the like button and just give me a nice little smash in the up like there so that YouTube knows what I've got going on. Remember, I have a Instagram that I try to update with as much as I can. As soon as I finish projects, I try to throw it up there. We do have merch. We will have more merch soon, probably after the holidays with everything else going on right now. We'll have a little bit more merch put up in there for you. Remember, also, there is a link in my description to the Wandering Kender's COVID mask shop, where she does masks and can do them for whatever chapter or organization within 40K you like, in just about any colors you like. And if you don't see something you like or want in there, you can always IM her or email her right off the site there, and she'll work with you to get you something you like. $25 for some really, really great masks. It would help her out. It would help me out, just to let her know that I really support what she's doing, and I think it's pretty cool. I've got like 3 or 4 of the masks right now because I've got a Nurgle one, I've got a Orc one, I've got a Space Wolf one. I'm going to have her make me a Tzeentch one. Just great stuff. Most everybody here is one of my Patreon members. If not, you know where my Patreon is. I found links to a town up there too. Also, if you like, we do have a Discord channel. All right, Meeks, go out to the link that I'll put down below. Go on to it and let her know, and I'll get you one started for you, because she can give it symbols. I've got like a claw, but she does a lot of other stuff. You just let her know what you want, and she'll put that together for you and get it right out to you, buddy. But if you want to hop on our Discord, we have a lot of crazy comments in there. As a Patreon member, we actually have more that opens up to you, but we still have a lot of really cool stuff in there, even for our non-Patreon members. Hey, you see my thing. I've been growing out the beard. I'm actually growing out this beard and going bigger with it. I'm thinking I'm not going to shave through next fall. I want to see if I can go a year with this thing. So, and my masks fit real good. So they're nice and fitted. They've got a metal retainer here that's adjustable, so you can tighten it to your nose. Adjustable elastic that goes around the ears. Nice breathable cotton, so it is nice infiltration, but it is breathable, and it has pockets in it that you can put filters into it. So that being said, I love all of you so much. Love wonderful things for all of you. Remember, guys, paint those figures, make those miniatures, wear that mask, build up that table. Epic your board and epic your game, epic your life. Big love and joy to all of you. Be well and take care of yourselves.